Hey everybody, my name is Judson Hurd. I'm pleased to have Emily Carmen here today on the show. So welcome, Emily.
Hey, how you doing? You good?
Good, good. So how's your day been so far?
Oh, good. Not much. Just trying to get my music going. Like working with a friend of mine, trying to get other songs out and trying to get the
Yeah.
music video out. Which I'm not. I didn't direct the video. A female director actually did and producer.
Okay.
So I'm excited about that.
Awesome, awesome.
So
So
doing a lot of
where
that stuff.
where are you based out of?
New York. I'm in
New York.
Westchester. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. And then so a little bit about you. So I saw your video. I was like really like love the song. It's been like stuck in my head. 1950s housewife. And so talk more. I guess I was interested because you said like in the description you said it's not like literally about that, but talk more about like the meaning behind the song and inspiration.
Yeah. There's a whole story behind this song. So my story is when I was way back in college. I had gone to
Okay.
Berklee College of Music for undergrad, and I didn't know that I had a chronic illness at the time. I was getting really sick. Every time I ate, I was like literally almost passing out. It was
Oh
bad.
no. Yeah.
Yeah. So at one point, I remember I was on the phone with my mom, and I was like, I don't feel well. I don't know what to do. And I woke up at Massachusetts General Hospital. Mind you, I went to Berkeley not for songwriting. I went there for film composing. So I thought it
Right.
was gonna be like the next Danny Elfman. So I was at Massachusetts General, and they're like, whatever it is, we can't help you here. You got to go home. So I thought I was gonna be maybe gone for like a semester or two. Little did I know it was gonna take years, like 6 years, to
Wow.
figure
Yeah.
out what was wrong. Yeah, and then managing it and everything included in that. So I went home, and I was obviously really, really depressed. Doctors were telling me they didn't know what was wrong with me. At some point, I was so sick I could barely, just to get up out of bed and
Yeah.
just walk out the bedroom door was
Wow.
like an amazing day.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and a really great day, rare, was if I could like get in the car and go to the grocery store with my parents. Like that. That was
Right.
an amazing
Yeah.
day. Super
Wow.
rare.
Yeah.
So during this time, I couldn't do anything other than even watching movies. Like I loved movies because I thought I was gonna be a film composer and all that. I did
Right.
work in film and stuff for a while. I can get into that. And I just started watching old movies and old shows and stuff. And then I started looking at, how I felt about being completely trapped in my life. And then I
Right.
started comparing it to like watching old movies about women in the
Right.
50s and stuff. And I was kind of relating it to, gee, like they don't really have a say and they're trapped too, like how I
Right.
am. So I kind of used it as like, kind of like a metaphor of like,
Right.
I guess metaphor analogy. Yeah. Of the whole song is the main part of the song is, are you happy yet? Any regrets? And
Right.
that's like a big part of the song. And the whole concept is like, you think you're going down this path, like me, you're going down this path thinking that, I'm going to be a film composer or you're going to be a housewife, whatever it is you want to do, or a businessman or a businesswoman.
Right.
And you kind of hit a wall at some point and you got to really ask yourself and like, is this what you really want to do? Or is this because you feel like you have to do it or what, the stereotype is for you, for anybody and anything.
Right.
And then with the chronic illness stuff, that just kind of, the song came about from listening to artists that I was really inspired by because what happened was when I couldn't watch movies or TV because I was in constant pain, I was constantly ill in bed. So I could only really listen to music on headphones. And I listened to film scores and stuff, but I was really getting into songs, which I really wasn't really much into prior. I had a few artists I loved, but I wasn't really into it as much. And I started looking for artists that I could relate to. I'm like, is there any artists that I was like Googling, like, are there any artists that have been through chronic illness? I mean, obviously I knew about Freddie Mercury,
Right.
with AIDS and all that. I knew about him, but he didn't really talk about it. And then, so there's him, Seal. I don't know if you know, Seal Kiss from a Rose,
Mm-hmm.
that song. So he had lupus as a kid, and it caused, which can cause facial scarring. And he talks about that a lot, how it caused severe anxiety for him, and thought he was never going to get anywhere in his life. So I related to him, and then I also related to Kurt Cobain because starting with him, when I started going back to all of his interviews, he started out with severe abdominal pain, not knowing what was wrong with him. Doctors telling him, oh, you're fine, there's nothing wrong with you, we don't know what to do. And one of these interviews I heard, I could really relate to what he was going through, like the agony. And so I started listening to all these different those three artists. So I was listening to Seal a lot, I was listening to Freddie Mercury, and I was listening to Nirvana. And I was kind of getting like the message within their songs a lot more. So with 1950s Housewife, people say a lot they hear a little bit of Nirvana in it, which is completely accurate because I actually wrote the song while trying to play in the guitar "Come As You Are."
Oh, okay,
And
cool.
the melody
Cool.
just came to me like for 1950s Housewife. I was just,
Right.
messing around with the notes on the guitar. And I wasn't really a trained guitar player, a trained violinist. I've been playing since I was 4. And it took piano and stuff, but never took guitar. I just kind of picked it up. And I kind of picked it up as more of like a physical therapy because my doctors were telling me I could never play guitar or do anything. They're like, you're never going to write music. You're going to be lucky
Right.
to walk around the block. So I
Right.
kind of
Right.
wanted to prove them wrong.
For sure.
And so the whole song came about from all those things together. So me being super frustrated and feeling trapped in my life,
Right.
relating to watching these movies about women and people in general, in the 50s and stuff, being pigeonholed into these, roles, and being able to relate to that in general. So I wanted to kind of make it like a pun about that, kind of like, oh, like this, you think it's about 1950s Housewife and, oh, we'll have a happy life and this, but really like they're
Right.
upset and frustrated, and it's kind of like all the frustration that I was dealing with, I would let out in my music. So
Right.
that's kind of how that came about. But that in general, the songs that I'm writing, which I can get into later, like all of them are a mix of stuff I've written in the past and in the present. So I never released any of these. 1950s Housewife, I redid it, believe it or not, for the show Mad Men. I was working for right when I was starting to feel a little bit better, I would go in once a week or once every 2 weeks to this music publishing company. And
Right.
the head of the company heard one of my songs. She's like, "Oh, do you write music?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like I didn't think it was that great."
Uh-huh.
And I had a version of 1950s Housewife that I hadn't released, which I haven't released yet. And she heard it and she said, "This is great. Can I share it with some shows I think it might work for?" And I was like, "Okay, great." So lo and behold, out of nowhere, I get a call and she says, "Can you redo 1950s Housewife in like 24 to 48 hours?" I had a weekend to
Yeah.
redo the entire song. They wanted it, the whole song to be very like stripped down because in the
Right.
one that I did, it was tons of strings in it. I was trying to learn how to write songs. I didn't really know what I was doing that much at that point. That was like literally the second song I ever wrote.
Right.
So
Right.
I had to strip it down. I had to follow what they wanted for it. They just wanted mostly vocals, and they said do whatever, but just make it less strings. So I just,
Gotcha. Okay.
took it what they wanted and I redid it. And the sad thing is that it never really got anywhere because the assistant at the time they just missed the deadline.
Right. Right.
So that really sucked.
That sucks. Yeah. Yeah. I hate that. Yeah. I
Yeah.
hate when that happens. Ugh.
So that really,
Well,
sucked. But it's frustrating.
I heard like a different version on your SoundCloud. Is that what you're
That's
talking
the
about?
one.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, yeah, I haven't heard this version. Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Well, that's like an awesome story. I love that show, Mad Men. Like that was definitely, I could definitely see it like being in a show like that.
Yeah, it's funny. I never had watched the show at that point either. I had no idea.
Yeah, no, it's really good. Yeah, it's a really great show, really well done and stuff. Well, awesome. Well, what about so you have like another song coming up? Do you want to talk more about that?
Yeah, so I have 2 other songs. So the other song I'm working on 2 things. So I used to have a band called Noisy Tenants, and I had moved out to California for a bit, and they came back. And while I was in California, I was introduced to this band called Blood Red Shoes, and they were a duo. They were a female guitarist and a male drummer. And one of my friends at the time had said, "Oh, you really remind me of Laura Mary Carter, who's the guitar player." I had no idea what he was talking about. And I looked them up and I was blown away. Like it was just literally just a guitar player and drums, and the sound was just so full. It was amazing. And I didn't really consider myself a guitar player at the time, but I knew I had a drummer. Like one of my best friends was a drummer that I had played with years and years before I'd gone to Berkeley and stuff, way back. And I called him up when I came back to New York. We're hanging out, and I said, "Listen, like we got to do this duo band thing. We just got to do it." He's like, "We don't have any songs." So we started playing some of the Blood Red Shoes songs, and then I started writing. Within like a few months, I wrote an entire album of music.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and we just started playing it live, and then finally a few years later, we recorded it, and we got a bass player to come in and do bass with us live because it was just the guitar and the drums.
Right.
And
Right.
my drummer kind of wanted to have like that bass, the full sound. At some point, which we just never got to do, I wanted to have electric violin live a bit more because
Oh,
that's
cool. Yeah.
like yeah, that's like my main thing. So
Right.
in the recordings of what I'm doing now, I'm adding some electric violin to those recordings because we did record them to release,
Right.
and then we just kind of never did anything with them. Like I released maybe like 2 or 3, but I just produced it myself. I didn't feel like that happy about it, so I didn't really promote
Right.
it that much. I just kind of put it out, like 3 of the songs. But they're good songs. You know, they're very
Right.
solid material,
Cool. Cool.
and so I have those coming out, and then I have two of my older songs, which I redid with Noisy Tenants. The first song I ever wrote called "Some Things," which
Okay.
was very relatable to the frustration I was going through with not knowing what I had wrong with me,
Right.
being in hospitals.
Sure. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
lyrics, if you look at the lyrics of my songs, they're very not I would say dark, but they're very like deep.
Right.
And the songs themselves can seem kind of like 1950s Housewife, like very like peppy, like happy kind of melodies. And then you listen to the lyrics, and you're like, ooh, like this is actually pretty intense, like pretty deep stuff she's talking about here.
Awesome.
And I
Yeah.
always like that.
Yeah. I'm looking at the Noisy Tenants. I'll have to
Mm-hmm.
check. I haven't listened to that yet, but that'll be on my list. Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm
Very cool.
redoing some of those songs.
Awesome.
But there's another song that I don't know if it's out anywhere, or if it is, it's like a really rough draft. I'm redoing entirely a song called Best Friend. And this was like one that once I started getting out there and talking about my disability, I have actually a podcast I did during the beginning of COVID called This Girl is Sick.
Okay.
And
Cool. Okay.
yeah, and I talked about like all the stuff I went through with being sick and having a chronic illness and what life is like, dealing with it now, like the best years of your life, having chronic illness.
Right.
And the song Best Friend I wrote was one of the 3 first songs. I wrote the song called Some Things. I wrote 950s Housewife, and I wrote the song called Best Friend. Best Friend was about all my friends pretty much ditched me when I got sick. Not all of them, but a big chunk
Right.
of my
Right.
life was completely erased. And,
Yeah.
to get through it, I just started writing these songs. So that was a big song. So I'm redoing the entire song from scratch. So we're following the original structure, but I'm trying to do more of having strings in it a bit more, having
Right.
less just guitar and bass and drums in it, and trying to have it more unique. Like I try to really do that with my songs a little bit. 1950s Housewife I feel like was more structured in terms of what people would expect for a song. Like it has very Fiona Apple, Veruska Salt kind of sound and Tori
Right.
Amos. Whereas
Yeah.
the other songs, I feel like it's kind of a mixed bag with me, which I'm kind of nervous about to release this album because I don't know what people are going to think of it. But
Yeah,
it's just
no,
how I write.
I'm excited. Like I really and I get a lot of music like doing the playlist and stuff. So I was like, every now and then I get something. I'm like, yeah, this is, I dig this, but very cool. So trying to think. I guess tell me like I know we talked a little bit about your composing, but if you want to talk more about that, like stuff you've done and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, and I was talking about the video too.
Oh yeah.
Later. So when I started out, I went to, as I said, Berklee College of Music to study film composing. I thought I was going to do that. Then I got sick. It came back. So years later, like a solid 6-7 years later, I decided, okay, I'm not going to go back to Berklee. So I went to SUNY Purchase, which was one of the ones I was going to go to originally.
Right.
The conservatory at SUNY Purchase. And I actually really lucked out because I started studying with Ira Newborn at NYU on the weekends. I went to NYU's Buddy Baker film program, which was a program they had in the summer for students that want to study film composing that weren't at NYU, Tisch School, Tisch School of the Arts. So I did that. I would go and study with him as my mentor. I learned, he did Ace Ventura, he did the Naked Gun movies. He did a lot of comedy writing, which I never realized as a film composer how hard that is.
Right.
So he taught me like a lot about that, which I use now in my songwriting too. I also worked with Sonny Kopanek, who is the orchestrator for Coen Brothers films.
Okay.
So he works with Carter Burwell. So I got to work with him a lot and edit all the scores he needed done. So I really got, with SUNY, I feel like I got a really great experience of hands-on work where I wouldn't have gotten that anywhere else, because I was able to get the work done with school stuff, do the projects, and then they encouraged me to go out and do this other stuff. So I got to work with Sonny Kopanek, who was also a professor at the school. He recommended me to Ira Newborn. Then I got referred to work with Steve Sandberg, who was the composer for Dora the Explorer, which I never in my life thought I would ever work on a kid's show. This was like, I think I learned like the most about the industry working with Steve because, you don't really see a lot of like what really goes on
Right.
and the pressure. So at that point, I was really trying to figure out if I really want to be in the industry at all. Because at this point, I was like, okay, this is my whole life. Do I really want to do this? Can I
Right.
handle it?
Right. Sure.
And yeah, like there were times where I would get, I'd be there working with him in the studio and we'd get calls at like, I was about to leave and we'd get like, oh, you got to redo all of these takes by
Right.
tomorrow morning. And he'd be like, can you do these takes for me at home? Like just take them and do what you can with them. Or can you look up this information for me? And I
Right.
would be
Right.
up, working and then drive back to Manhattan because I wasn't in the city. I was in Westchester. So I'd
Right.
get home, be up for several hours at night, then get in the car and drive back. But I think it was really important too because it helped me to distract myself from how shitty I felt all the time.
Right.
When you have chronic illness, you don't ever really feel great.
Right.
So
Sure.
it
Sure.
kind of put me in that mindset of like, okay, like just kind of, the blinders on and just do what you got to do to get it done. And that I think is so important in the arts is you have to really love it.
Right.
And film
Yep.
composing, even though I still do it sometimes, but it's not my first passion. I realized
Right.
that through all of this stuff I've been through is that songwriting was really where my heart was and
Sure. Yeah.
composing was kind of second,
Gotcha.
which I
Okay.
never
Yeah.
realized.
That's no. I mean, that's those are like I've heard of a lot of those people very cool. So you went to Berkeley and you found out you're sick. So what trying to think. Talk more about like the video, like the music video
Yeah.
about that, and maybe we can hear the song too as well.
Yeah. So the video came about. The whole thing with the album and my music coming back out was just out of nowhere. I was actually back in teaching full-time online stuff because I was a special educator, I did advocacy and stuff for private schools. During COVID, I was doing a lot of online.
Cool.
And
Yeah.
out of nowhere, I saw a post in a music forum for professional musicians, and it was a director. And she said, "Hey, I'm looking to make a music video for an artist. Submit your music if you're interested." And I saw it, and it had been up for about a month at this point, and there were like tons of posts. People were like
Right.
constantly posting on it. And I'm like, they're not gonna look at my stuff. So I actually I just submitted like some of the Noisy Tenant songs. I'm like, let me see.
Right.
So a month goes by. I'm like, she's not gonna call me. Out of nowhere, I get this message and this call.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, like, I listened to your stuff and I Googled you and blah, blah, blah. Like, would you be interested in doing like your song 1950s Housewife? And I'm like, sure, okay, like, why not? And I was really excited because I always wanted to work with a female director because I find like in general in film, in the film industry and stuff, and entertainment industry, there's less women in the, directing chair.
Right.
So I really wanted to have her take it and do what she wanted with it. And I always been like that with my songwriting and stuff too, is whatever your talent is, like with my drummer and stuff, like whatever your thing is, you do that part. Like I'm not going to really step on your toes too much. So I told her, I said, whatever you want to do with this, go for it. So we filmed it in a day. It was, we just finished it at the end of March. We filmed it in like one day on the weekend. And also, mind you, we have to figure out when to do this around how I'm feeling because I'm constantly in the hospital. I have to get IV treatments. So she was really great about figuring out like how to do this around how I'm feeling, around COVID. With me, I have to be a little more careful. So we did that. And then when I started thinking about it, and I was talking to some of my friends about the video, and I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? I really want to represent artists in, music and entertainment industry that have chronic illness or disabilities. Like, how can I really, make this a thing? So I hit up the director and I said, listen, when you finish the video, is it okay if I get somebody to do sign language, ASL, American Sign Language, and also a friend of mine that does voiceover work to do, I know like now on Hulu and stuff, they have audio description options for shows.
Sure.
So I realized this would be amazing to have a video where people that are hearing impaired or visually impaired can enjoy it too.
Sure.
They're not going to get the same exact experience, but I wanted to get like as close as possible because I was looking up artists. I think Olivia Rodrigo, whatever her name is.
Yeah, Olivia. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She with Disney, they did one with her with American Sign Language in the corner of one of her videos.
Oh,
and
cool.
They're doing that. Yeah. So, because I was trying to see like, is anybody really doing this? So she did it, and then I didn't really see anybody else. I mean, if anybody knows of anybody, let me know. But I didn't see anybody doing it for people that are visually impaired. Music video. And also wanted to try to do one for people that are colorblind because that would be interesting too. I'm trying to figure out if I can do that, but I asked a friend of mine that does editing for films and stuff, and he said to do that, I didn't know this, but for colorblind people, there's 2 different types. So you have to kind of colorize it for 2 different types of colorblind. So you said it'd be better to just do it in shades of gray. So
Gotcha.
I was like, okay. So that would be like a bigger project to do. So that might have to hold off a bit.
Yeah. Huh.
But what I'd like to do is release, So I'd like to release a music video as is, and then have somebody do the American Sign Language for it. So I'm going to send them actually I was doing that today, writing up what I need them to do. So I want it to be, because I realized, yes, somebody that's hearing impaired could read the lyrics, but it's not the same. There's no flow to lyrics when you're reading it.
Right.
So if you're doing ASL, it really just like the whole flow of it and stuff, it just is kind of more like I don't want to say like a dance, but it's just more artsy, melodic,
Right, sure.
It was just like reading each line like this. Like it's just a different experience. So I really want to do that. And then for people that are visually impaired, I was like, how's that going to work? So I'm going through like what the music video is going to be, and realizing like studying every single audio description movie I can, every single show I can.
Yeah.
And taking notes of like writing out an entire script for somebody to just read it, and then putting that over the music. So that way somebody can actually experience the video as best they can. It's going to be a different experience.
Yeah, yeah.
Nobody does that. So I'm really trying to push that, out into the industry, because I'm noticing nobody really represents us. I mean, they do and they don't. I've found some people out there that are higher ups that are really trying to get a voice for people with disabilities and chronic illness, but it's very limited. Like there's really not anybody talking about that.
Yeah. That, to be honest, that's not something like, I don't know, really like think about, like I would think about, honestly, and it makes me like think more about, wow, that's like a whole market, like a whole market of people that that don't, we could definitely adjust to with technology and make things better. So very cool. Well, if you like, would you like to play your new song? I posted the link in the chat as well for people to check it out, and I definitely will check out your podcast too.
It's a little podcast I did. People asked me to bring it back, which I think I'm going to do it to talk about like what this experience has been and is doing, getting back to my music full time.
Yeah.
For people with disabilities, like the obstacles we got to go through and all that. Do you have it? Or I'm trying to see how we get it to play on here. I don't know if you do it.
I think, let's see. I think if I share my screen, hold on. Let's see. Share screen to some screens, share audio. Okay. I think. Oh, I need to do the preferences. Hold on.
Yeah, it's okay. I know I've done StreamYard. It's tough.
Yeah, I'm still learning, for being honest.
Yeah, it can be annoying.
All right, Chrome tab. Let's see. Awesome. Share tab audio. All right, cool. Got it. All right. Okay, so yeah, let's just I guess we can just pull up your. Actually, I got it right here.
Okay.
All right, Stay With Me, original version.
You can play the original if you want.
Okay, we'll do our new version. Maybe the new version. Which one?
I guess the new one first, and then
the new one. Okay.
Play a clip from the other one. Yeah, we'll play a clip from the other one. So
cool.
Stay with me.
All right.
And you shall see that we will be.
This part I get a lot of people saying Chili Peppers kind of vibe.
Yeah.
Which it is.
That this is the way it's supposed to be with both of these rings. I'll be a housewife, wouldn't that be nice? Stay with me, and then forever it will always be just you and me. Can't you see how simple both of our lives would be if you'd agree? In the backyard,
This part was very
Yeah, I can definitely hear that. Yeah. Cool.
Stay with me, and then maybe we will one day be our own family. Can't you see how many plus you and baby would make three to a family tree? You'll get a second job, so we are not in debt. I'll still stay at home, making sure the house is kept. So stay with me, because too soon it will only be just you or me. Now you see how someday it will just be you and me for eternity.
So that was that one.
Awesome, I love it. Yeah, I'll play a little bit of the other version.
That's something. That's wrong.
Oh,
That's
something. No, sorry, wrong one.
Okay.
Wrong one. All right.
So the original version, yes, you can
Here
hear
we
it's
go.
way different.
Yeah, it's more stripped down, I
Stay
think.
with me, and you shall see that we will be oh so happy. Can't you see that this is the way it's supposed to be with both of these rings?
Yeah, I mean, I like this version too. It's got some different qualities to it, so I like
Yeah,
that.
it's definitely different. It's funny. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I like how you do like the reverb with your vocals and stuff," which is a lot of my older stuff is like that.
Right.
The Noisy
Yeah.
Tenants is more Joan Jett meets Nirvana Bleach album.
Yeah.
It's
No,
definitely different.
I'll definitely check that out, and I'll post a link to the video as well. Very cool. Well, so what are some like I guess some dates for like the EP? Some plans that you have, future plans and things like that.
So the music video should be out soon. That's up to the director Mao Hanada is doing it, and her friend Anita Locke is a producer.
Right.
So it's up to when they're doing it, which should be done soon. The plan is to have it out by end of summer. So
Gotcha,
probably by
okay.
August. It might even be sooner. Because they're pretty much almost done with it at this point. So I'm thinking it's probably going to be end of July, the latest. And then
Gotcha, okay.
after that, I'm going to release, which will probably take about a month to get the 2 versions for hearing impaired and visually impaired.
Okay,
So
cool.
that's
cool.
a big deal.
Okay.
Like I really want to get that out there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, awesome. Well, I guess before we go, what advice do you have for people like that you would give I guess if it was like you older version of you, like what would you say to that person?
One of the biggest things I was always told was to not talk about my disability when I got to the industry.
Sure.
And I feel like that was the worst advice I ever got in my life. Because by being very open and honest, I opened so many doors, which you wouldn't think is the case. But I
Right.
noticed over time by being very, not obnoxiously upfront, like, hey, I have a disability, but like,
Right.
but
But just
like,
being vulnerable and
yeah, just like sharing it with people. You get a vibe from people, like what to say and stuff. And I've worked with, I could name off a lot of people I've worked with over the years, like major
Yeah.
people that have actually shared their stories with me. And it's kind of, I think, this unsaid, like, connection you have with people when you have a disability or chronic illness. It's like, you just kind of know you're not going to share it.
Right.
So I think the best thing to do is always be very comfortable with who you are. Which is hard to do when you have a disability or a chronic illness or anything, because you feel like everybody's judging you all the time. But once you realize and take off that Band-Aid, or open that door and tell people like, hey, I'm Emily, I have a chronic illness and I'm an artist and da-da-da. I can't tell you how many times like people have literally given me their private phone numbers, told me their stories.
Wow.
Like this whole other connection has happened. It was just, it's crazy. I've worked with people that, and even done stuff like written pilots for people that I never, shows and stuff, and gotten offers
Right.
to do things. I just wasn't really my thing. But yeah, I would say always be very comfortable, not just be very comfortable with who you are, but don't be afraid to talk about like
Right.
your disability, not to the point of like all the details, but don't be afraid to be you, because
Right.
as soon as you start covering it up, you get caught in this snowball effect of like, oh my God,
Sure.
did I tell them this? Did I tell them that? Did I tell them this? Did I tell them that? And then it just becomes this panic. And then you don't look professional and you look like a mess. It just,
right.
if you're just like upfront about it, like, hey, like, when I wrote you, like, hey, I'm a songwriter. I have, this chronic illness and rare condition and disability. And here's what I'm doing. I'm trying to represent artists like me.
Yeah, no, I think that's really like valuable like information for sure, because everybody has a story. It's just better just to be honest, and like you said, not obnoxious about it, which I don't think you are or anything, but just be real, just be real with people. But very cool. So where can people find your music? Emily Carmen.
Anything Emily Carmen on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer,
cool.
Anywhere.
Pandora,
and then EmilyCarmen.com is coming out.
Okay, EmilyCarmen.com. Okay, that's coming out this week.
And
very
have
cool.
The video and
very cool.
On it.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out for a little bit with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for doing this.
And we'll definitely talk. I'd love to have you again. And I haven't done this in a while. I've been this busy and stuff, but I'm getting the ball rolling again. But anyway, thank you so much. And thank you everybody for tuning in.
Yeah, thanks so much.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.